Hello. How are you? Hello. 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 It's Tuesday night. It's Kids on the Escalator. We're hanging out. We've got Mike in the waiting room because currently he sounds
like Iron Man.
Like not the Iron Man with the thing. Oh, Mike's gone.
It's like
now he's back.
Iron Man.
Yeah, let's see.
Like
3,
the Black
2,
Sabbath
1.
Iron Man.
Let's bring him
Is
in.
that better?
What a guy.
There you go. Hi, Mike.
There we go. See, he just took a
Check
few
1, 2.
tweaks. A few tweaks.
Okay, now I've got an echo.
Me too.
What happened?
What?
Bye, Mike. Every time with Mike.
What happened there? What's the deal? What's the deal with that?
His super enhanced system doesn't enjoy this kind of production. His super enhanced. Okay, here we go. We're bringing him in. And Iron Man's back. Nope, you sound like Iron Man. Back you go. Keep slapping him on the wrist. It is the Kids on the Escalator podcast, heavy production on a Tuesday night for your ears and eyes on the Dean Blundell Network. Hi, everybody. Brenton On Tour. That's the Machete. How you doing, buddy? What's going on?
Hi, I'm doing good. I'm drinking Gatorade. I just had some Mexican food up from around the corner there because we were allowed to go out and eat stuff. So we went and had some Mexican food, and it was awesome, man. It's like authentic Mexican kind of around the corner here, and it's just like around the corner, man. I'm like 2 minutes away. So the best part about it is there's no long ride home because when you go out for dinner and you have all those beers and you have all that food, the last thing you want to sit in a car for a long time, right? Unless you're in a band.
It's like tour. Yeah, well, even then, that was the ride home. That was the ride home. You do the show. Oh, I see Mike trying to get in there. You do the show, and then you kind of like get as much food into you as you can, and then usually it's a quiet ride home after that point. So
I always like the ride homes on the short shows. Like if we weren't on tour or anything, if we were just taking off, and I like driving through Toronto at night through the city and seeing all these skyscrapers and stuff like that. Yeah, there's Taylor.
So we had Kristen on a couple weeks ago. Remember that time we almost killed her in a car accident? So it was crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, Mike.
Is that better?
There he is. What a guy. Hey, buddy.
I'm telling you, man. Of all the things. Again, you know what it was? I used the wrong browser again. I used Firefox instead of Chrome. And
remember, so in that email there, where I sent you the email that says, remember to use Chrome, I'm wondering if maybe you read
the wrong button. I clicked the wrong. I have 1,000 different browsers on my computer desktop is a mess. So
I understand.
It's like Guardians of the Galaxy. Don't press this button. Press this button. Press this button. Little Groot's awesome. I like Little Groot.
Hey, Chris, I wanted to show you something. I would love to share screens, but I can't.
I can't see it.
Hang on, right there. Let it focus.
Focus. Beautiful, buddy. Oh, wow. That looks great there, dude.
Dude, I was so psyched when that came in the mail.
Oh, you got it. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. I got the comic and that beautiful piece of artwork. Thank you. I've never been drawn as a Jedi with a very kick-ass purple lightsaber. So
now you have.
It is in the studio now. It is amongst my Star Wars paraphernalia, and I thank you. It's fabulous.
You know what Mike has been drawn like, though? He did actually say, I remember one point when we had first met Mike, I'm like, you might have heard me in some of the things, but you also might have seen the one drawing of me. Remember he wanted them to draw you like Kate Winslet from the Titanic. Remember you were kind of lying out on the thing and you had one ball out. You said something about that.
Too. Yeah.
It was weird. So I'm really glad that Chris brought your comic book.
I had a pearl necklace, but that would be inappropriate.
I was really happy that Chris was like, should I draw him like a Jedi? I'm like, well, yeah. He's probably due for like a non-ball drawing. So there we go.
I'm glad everything the comics are landing safely, which is good. I like that. And thanks and again, Mike, thanks for the support, my friend. We're almost sold out and getting ready to put out issue 2.
It's so seriously, it is pardon my language, fucking cool how amazing you are, not only as a storyteller, but as an artist. It's mind-boggling. So thanks, man, congrats.
Thank you very much. And on a side note, the printing company did a good job, huh? Like it's good quality.
Yeah.
I was really impressed by that. The quality of the comic book, I thought it was really good.
Yeah. So thank you. That was very, very cool. And now I have Machete artwork in my studio. So this
that's I really like that,
shelf,
dude. That is awesome.
Shelf.
I can't draw shit, so you're not getting nothing from me. But you get the guest on this podcast, so there you go, buddy. There you go. It's all good. Hey, so a couple of things, Mike. You made a note today. British Columbia, yes, the fabulous British Columbia, where I'm currently residing, is back to normal-ish. Phase 2 today. The movies are back. The movies are back today. You can go to the movies, check them all out, do the whole thing. Now, Mike, being the voice of Cineplex, is like very excited. Yes, Mike, I'm stoked for you to still be able to voice that and do all that. However, I need to send congratulations out to my friend Corinne Lee from the Rio Theater, who is constantly getting trampled by Cineplex. Yeah. And she's able to open up today and finally show a couple movies. So a big shout out to her too, as well. And all the little theaters, because Kevin Smith rescued that theater with Ryan Reynolds. And those guys had a big, huge campaign to save the Rio. And she's a benefit of that. It's still going. And they got to show movies today again, too. So congratulations to them.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, stoked for you to be back on the telling people to stop kicking chairs and turning off their cell phones. So.
Yeah, man. Well, and soon, hopefully, Ontario will, at some point, maybe, I don't know, October, November of 2025, maybe we'll get back to, theaters again. No, I'm pretty optimistic though. I'm getting my second shot Thursday. So
look at you go.
I will be 10G, baby. You'll be able to trace me on any laptop, iOS device, Android. Yeah. I'm totally psyched for that. So.
I also want to thank the internet gods today for having us in relatively decent quality all the way around. The last couple of shows have been a little wacky with the internet gods, but thank you for that. Must be the aliens finally reaching through to Telecon.
Our nerddom is finally, saturating into the stream. So.
Yes, very much.
Settled in nicely. It's funny. The world's in weird spot when they've actually went on TV, online, everywhere, and said that aliens exist, and nobody has really said anything. Did you guys even see that?
Yeah, I did, and I know that. And again, big thanks to our friends over at Dean Blundell for hosting us. That they covered it the other day a little bit on
amazing,
a little bit on like the aliens coming. They had John Guarnieri on, who used to be Barack Obama's Secret Service agent. I had him on. Actually, maybe we'll try to get him on in a couple of weeks as well to talk alien theory. But he's
I like that.
They had Barack Obama on Corden, and Corden was asking him. James Corden was asking him about it, and Barack's like, "That's like the first thing I asked when I got into office. It's like, where's the aliens?" And they're like,
"Where's the aliens? Let's drink."
And if anyone's the funny thing is that he gave the Democratic answer of like maybe Trump. The thing I was most excited about with Trump getting in, which was the only thing I was excited about Trump getting in, was he's like, I'm opening it all. We're all gonna learn. Yeah. Everyone's gonna know about the aliens. And then perhaps one actually infected him and turned him into what it is that he was. But
nobody let him in.
But aliens, I'm very excited about that side of it because maybe the arrival of the aliens will stifle all this religious fucking shite that's happening around the planet, and they'll go, "Oh shit, there's aliens here."
I just thought it was funny that nobody it wasn't a big deal. Like nobody's talking about it. You know what I mean? Like all the times that people said, "Oh, they don't," yes, they do, and how absurd is that? And now it's proven, and nobody's saying a word about it.
I have friends who I love them dearly, and some people believe certain things, and that's cool. But the theory that I have heard is that aliens, they're here. They've been here for a while, and the government is it's kind of like when your daughter brings home that boyfriend that she really doesn't want to introduce to the parents, so she kind of does it in stages just to warm you up a little bit. And that's that's one of the theories that I'm hearing, is that they're here and the government's just kind of like, we've had those UFO sightings and now there's some stuff that's being uncovered. It's basically sort of like, because we as humans, as much as we want to say, yeah, let's bring on the aliens, we've seen how people act in a pandemic in this time and age. We would lose our fucking minds and the world would go insane. There wouldn't be this like, do you remember that miniseries V from the 80s?
Yeah, it's the best.
Oh my God. Which
the best.
And, like the visitors are coming and and then, they start ripping off their faces and their lizards. I think as a general rule, I think humans, we talk a big game, but if aliens came, we would shit our pants. And I think that's why the government's kind of like, okay, we're just kind of, we're good with them. They seem to be cool so far, but we're gonna take our time.
They're gonna roll it out slowly. It'll be a slow rollout.
Like the vaccine. It's like the vaccine rollout. We're gonna let Doug Ford take the alien rollout, and because we're all my friends, and my friends and your friends. So,
guys, got your drinks? It's gonna be time here for a quick. As we get into it, we're going to get into Nerds on Ice. We got a quick preview of the semifinals.
Oh, man.
Here. Oh, man, right there.
I like that.
That's a great
graphic. That was top stuff we got going on here.
I want to ask you guys first, what do the Leafs do next?
Blow it up.
Brent? Yeah, well, do you think so?
I mean,
let's put it this way. What should they do? But let's keep it in line of what you think. Right. Like, they're not going to get rid of Matthews and Marner.
It's not going to be. Well, Marner. I mean, okay. Here's the thing. No matter what would have happened in round one, if you look at the way Vegas and Colorado and those teams are playing, I don't think the Leafs would have stood a chance against them. There's such a different. You can't think
that way if they didn't even make it past the first round.
Such a different style of hockey, and this is what I'm saying is like the Leafs need to look at what. How those two teams are playing and kind of go, all right, we don't have that. They just didn't have, they don't have that intensity.
Okay, so narrow it down though. Like that's one thing. That's okay, like the easy way to say they need to be more like this team, right?
We need a goaltending.
Okay.
Goaltending.
Who should they go after? Who's available? Like, let's be realistic about it, right?
Tuukka Rask.
Wow, imagine that. And then they get also, what's his name there from the Carolina Hurricane? Dougie Hamilton.
Dreimer. No, but Dougie
Hamilton.
Yeah.
The original trade guys that they lost, Tuukka Rask and Dougie Hamilton. Imagine that if they got them two guys.
That would be funny. I think Tuukka Rask would be great. Marner and Austin and Matthews didn't prove shit to me in the playoffs. So I'm like, I don't want to lose Matthews. I'm happy with the whiny little Marner going. Ship him out.
Yeah, well, that's one thing about. Well, the thing I thought is that it's one thing to worry about making it towards the playoffs, but dude, this is 4 or 5 years in a row that they haven't got by the first round. That is such a. Pardon me.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that's such a major problem that you can't even look that far behind because they haven't even gotten hit to the one spot yet. I think one problem that I'm seeing, and it could just be me, and I mentioned this before, that there's no more like hockey players that grew up on the farm anymore kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like they enter the NHL and they're given like $10 million, which is ridiculous. But are you guys getting the hint that maybe the coach is letting the players run the roost over there? You know what I mean? And Harry Potter there, Dumas, well, they could have had a Lou Amaretto, right? But he went to the Islanders. Yeah. And that could be a great segue to our playoff predictions here to talk about Lou Amaretto. But I don't know, man. I think back to when they could have went either way, and you got two young guys, which is cool, maybe, running the team. You got the coach who's young, you got the owner that's young, and then you've got these kids that are making $10 million a year running the team. Now, is that maybe the problem, guys? I'm asking you.
You know what? It's I think Leaf fans at this point now, the true Leaf fans, not the bandwagon ones that hop on board when they're winning and then hop off as soon as they disappear in the first round, like they have done. I honestly don't think the Leafs are in as bad a position as everybody thinks they are. I also don't think we're, one or two pieces away from being Stanley Cup champions. Because to your point, Brent, watching the Vegas-Montreal game last night, it's amazing to see how the West, and as the game's going on, I'm texting back and forth with our other resident hockey expert, Mr. Copeland. And, the West, they tend to bring in big boys. Like watching Vegas on the ice with the Canadians, it's like watching a men's league playing a peewee team. And there's this aggression. There's the difference between, say, a Vegas and the Leafs. Both teams have really good skilled players. The Leafs have some really good skilled players. The difference is, I think the Leafs try to get too cute. There's a lot of cute plays. It's almost like they're playing NHL, 2K21.
Yeah. Well, let's compare. Like you got. Let's compare some of the players who Vegas has compared to the Leaf players. Look at Stone. That guy is heart and soul. He will go in the corners. He will score.
Carlson is playing.
Compare him to Matthews. Right there. You know what I mean? There's so many players that you can. Like star players.
Max Pacioretty. Max Pacioretty, who's again. I think Matthews and Marner. The problem with Mitch, I think Mitch, it's a mental thing now. I really.
It's going to get worse too. I agree with you. I think he took too much money, Mike. And I think it's weighing on his head. And he's getting people. He's not the nice little kid anymore. People are yelling at him and stuff. He said that, right? That he can't walk through the park anymore.
I hope so. Because I'm sorry,
who cares? Your dad. No, the videos of Marner coming out and his daddy's like, if you compare Mitch Marner to Nathan McKinnon, there's no. To me, Nathan McKinnon's the best player in the league, not named Connor McDavid. And to watch Nathan McKinnon during the Colorado series, even though they lost it, but physically take over the game in the playoffs, which is different than the regular season. To me, I was watching that going, holy shit. And I'm going to harken back to the Canucks in 2011 when Kessler decided to take over a game against Nashville. Mm-hmm. Has Toronto had anybody take over a game where Kessler's just like, that's it, fuck this. I'm doing it.
They did this year, except the problem was he was one of the oldest guys on the team, and that was Jason Spezza.
Yeah, I love Spezza,
but he's a perfect example of a guy who's playing on the league minimum just because he wants to win in Toronto.
So Mike, who should the Leafs get? Because they brought in Simmons, they brought in Foligno. So what do they do realistically?
They should re-sign Nick Foligno as everything that they can do.
They're going to have about $12 million.
Well, the conversation will be that now that Dougie Hamilton is talking about wanting to get out of Carolina, of course, Leaf Nation would love to have another Dougie to cheer about. Mm-hmm. I honestly, I don't think the goaltending situation is as bad as some think. I don't think Freddie Anderson resigns. I think that's goodbye. You're probably going to have Jack Campbell as your number one guy. Whether or not that's good or bad, I like Jack Campbell. I think he showed a lot more during this one season than Freddie has over the last couple of seasons. Tuukka Rask, again, I was one of the guys who wanted Tuukka Rask back, and if I've got Campbell, I'm okay.
He's got a cup. He's got a cup.
Yeah, but the problem with the Leafs again is it's a confidence thing. It's a physical game. They're kind of in that borderline now where they've got a lot of great skill. Willie Nylander, he showed up, and a lot of people gave him shit most of the season. I still don't think he's as physical as he can be or needs to be, but I'll take his goal scoring in the meantime.
I was surprised, Mike, that they didn't switch Nylander and Marner, at least for like a game, because you got Marner, who's like everybody's on him, and he's doing absolutely nothing. Get him off of the first line and hide him somewhere. Put Nylander up where he's really confident right now. Like, that guy is cool as a cucumber, my friend. Marner is scared. Hide him somewhere. This is what I didn't understand about the coaching in the playoffs.
Well, I think coaching is the other thing about the coaching side too, is the out coaching. To me, was an interesting one. Which I think in this case, the adjustments he just seemed to be outcoached and continues to get outcoached. So you've got one of the best face-off coaches and guys in the league, if not the best, with Manny Malhotra, who came from Vancouver over to there. Mm-hmm. So you should be, you've got this guy that can get face-offs won and teach these guys how to win a face-off. But I don't even think that they were that great against Montreal in that category. Then you've got, they couldn't score.
The power play was abysmal.
The power play was abysmal. So it's like, to me, there's a bit of a coaching thing. I'm always amazed. I don't know if you guys, I'm always amazed when guys at that level that have played hockey as long as they have still need to be coached.
Yeah.
Like, to me, sometimes it's like, hey, you guys go in the back. Funny. We're going to just play.
No, but you know what it is? It's because, again, they've been doing this for so long. I mean, you get into a groove, you get into a rut, And bad habits are like, good habits. They'll stick with you. And that's, the coaches are there to say, okay, stop doing that. That's
it's like telling Edge and Jericho, hey, you guys need to change it up a little bit. And they're like, what are you talking about? We know what we're doing. We can call this shit in the ring.
It's like, but see, the difference between that being sort of a positive or negative is the way you present it to the person and their willingness to take it in and look at it objectively. When you've got kids that are making, millions of dollars, they're young. Think about when you were 23, 24, if you had $12 million and you had somebody telling you how to do your job,
they're overpaid.
You'd be like,
sure.
Fuck you.
It never used to be that way, right? You had to pay your dues in the NHL and then you got paid.
When I first met Chris, I had $300, but I blew it all at the Dynasty in Oshawa. So
there you go.
I know what that's like. It's not 12 million.
So who would you put that $300 on to win the Stanley Cup then, Brent?
I got Vegas.
Yeah,
I got Vegas. I people are gonna hate this. I understand, but the story is unbelievable. I mean, at one point, George McPhee had two of his teams in the Stanley Cup playing each other.
Right.
With Washington and Vegas, and they came up short. Fleury playing lights out just for that story alone. And I've definitely come to the conclusion now that in my era of being alive, Fleury has entered the top 5 for me of all time.
Wow. What a goalie.
The kid he's fantastic. And I want him. I want it for him. Just as a big fuck you to Pittsburgh. Sorry, Jen Shafaro, who's on the network. But I want it for him because they gave up on him. I want it for them. And I think Vegas is – I called Vegas Toronto final.
Yeah.
I was way off on that. But I think it's going to be Vegas, Tampa. And
really? I'm Vegas Isles, baby. I honestly – and as a Leaf fan, how much are you wishing that way back when the Leafs would have got Alex Pietrangelo, because again, would have made a difference, probably Vegas. So
boys, what do you want to do for? Okay, so I'm taking Vegas. I'm going to say Vegas in 5. I'll give Montreal 1 game. I'll take Vegas in 5, and I'm going to take Tampa in I think 7. That's going to be 7. But I think you're going to see Vasilevsky turned on. So Vegas. Tampa Bay, and then I'll leave my Stanley Cup prediction until that. What do you got, Chris?
Impressive. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to say Vegas is going to take Montreal out in 4 games straight here.
Okay.
And then the Islanders and the Lightning, that's probably going to be 6 games, and it's going to be 7 games, and that's going to be the Islanders. Then it's going to be the Islanders and Vegas for the Cup.
Interesting. Mike?
Yeah, I'm saying Vegas in 5. I think Montreal gets 1. And, hats off to Cole Caulfield, because he's doing what Marner should have done.
Yeah, right.
He really showed it again last night. That kid's playing cool as a cucumber, and he's a spark. But that's also the one thing that I said about Montreal. When you're relying on that one kid to be, the one that puts you over the hump, I think they're going to be like Vancouver last year. No offense, Brent. They're going to run out of gas. Vegas is big. They're tough. They're on their game. And that crowd, man, that arena last night. Damn.
There's no better story of a franchise starting. It has to be Vegas. I mean, how many chances are they going to get to be this good?
Yeah, and I know it's not the traditional, it's not the traditional hockey arena. I mean, it's not Madison Square Garden. It's not Maple Leaf Gardens. But what they're doing in Vegas, and I was saying to Adam, I'm like, their rink announcer, who got a lot of flack on Twitter today. A lot of people do not like him. I'm like, he sounds like Greg Hamilton, who's the WWE ring announcer. But really, great presentation. I think Vegas does it. Same reason as you said, Brent. I'd love to see Fleury just stick it to Pittsburgh. And again, it's a great story. Islanders are going to beat Tampa. I really do. I think they're finding their groove now. And I think we're going to see a Vegas Islanders final. That's probably going to go to 7, but Vegas, baby, Vegas.
Okay, well, friends, that has been Nerds on Ice. Time for Nerds on Ice. Stand by for expensive graphic. Here we go.
Nice. Nice.
And now we get to move on to this brand new series on Marvel, which I'm very anxious to hear you guys break down and chat about here. But Loki has started on Disney Plus, and my daughter was super stoked about it. I fell asleep. So let's start with
you loved it.
And let's start. Let's go with comic book Chris and see what
that's the
what your
first
thoughts
one.
are, man.
Yeah, it's first one. It's I don't know, man. It's tough to really give a review on it. Like to say it was cool. You know what I mean? I wasn't I don't know. I still like the WandaVision when I first started watching that. For some reason, that just blew my mind, and I'm not getting that same full effect from this again. Like same with the Falcon Winter Soldier one. But it's interesting. Owen Wilson is really got his acting chops back, and he's doing a great job in this. I could see his character carrying on. But again, it's from the comic book, and all the characters that are in there are from the book, man. Like all these guys that are working for the Time Police and everything. It's really interesting. First thing that hit me, that Tom Middleton looks way older than when he did Avengers #1, which is funny because it's supposed to be right there. But that was the first thing that hit me was he looks really older. It's cool, to see where everything's going to go. I liked the DB Cooper hats off too there, because I've always loved that story. Now, DB Cooper is the gentleman, I think it was in the 60s, that he hijacked a plane, just gave a note to a stewardess and said, I have a bomb. And he had a bomb, and he parked the plane. They parked, and he wanted a bunch of money, and they got the money. And mid-flight, he jumped off with all this money in a parachute. And nobody's ever found him. They found some of the money, but nobody's ever found him. So in the Loki show, spoiler, but take that if you haven't seen it yet, they show that he was DB Cooper, which is really, really cool. So I kind of hope they keep that vibe going on where all these mysterious people throughout, our times are kind of Loki. And it was the only reason he did the DB Cooper thing. The only reason he stole the money and did the whole deal was because Thor dared him to do it. And he's jumping out of the airplane. He's like, okay, they basically like, beam me up. Okay, guys, get me now. And they catch him in midair and beam him out of there, right? So if they keep that kind of scheme going, that's really cool. I'm gonna really dig that. I'm more looking forward. I'm kind of sidetracked by the Eternals movie coming up. I know we're focusing on Loki, but Loki was okay. Good start, really good start. I can't say anything bad about it. And again, first time. So Mike, up to you, buddy.
Well, and I'm kind of surprised as I was watching Loki. I mean, I love Tom Hiddleston. I think he's taken the character of Loki across the series of the phases of the Marvel movies so far. He's brilliant. He's made this character who, honestly, way back when, I kind of thought, he's just kind of like a minor character. Nothing, it's sort of a one and done in Avengers. And Thor, it's kind of like, but he's really made it into this, beloved character. Which that's the one thing I was curious to see how they're going to approach, because Loki's character arc up until when he's choked out by Thanos, you got the redemption story. Thor always knew that Loki is god of mischief, but he was a good person in the end. And I'm curious to see how they're going to play this. And I know he got to see his spoiler alert here, he got to see his life story when when he ducked out and which is, bizarre to think, you can sort of, if you could watch your whole life, past, present, and future. I thought he played that scene so well. Even that little chuckle at the end when he died, like when he watched himself, it's almost like this weird realization of how he, who he really was. I love the concept of now that because he grabbed the Tesseract and decided to bugger off in that time heist that the Avengers did, that it's messed up the whole timeline and that he's getting called out on it. I like how they covered off, the Avengers, they messed with the timeline, but it was all meant to be like this time authority. It's like they gave their blessing to this because it was supposed to happen, but what Loki did wasn't. I love it. And Owen Wilson is Owen Wilson in every movie. We watched Starsky and Hutch the other night, which guilty pleasure of mine. I love that movie. But Owen Wilson, you watch him, anything with him in it, and you wait for that moment where he does that thing, and he did it with the judge. It's the aside where he's, I'm talking, and I'm just going to talk really quiet here. And I think, if you let me take him, it's mind blowing. It's the typical Owen Wilson. I love it. I think the two of them together, I'm looking forward to the next 5 episodes to see how they work as sort of like a buddy cop team, which is different from the Bucky and Falcon. But what surprises me when you're talking, Chris, is I thought for sure you'd be coming on here and you would have 1,000, like, okay, here was an Easter egg that most of you probably didn't notice. Because they started talking about, this Loki is now hunting Loki. And in the research, doesn't Loki have like a female version of Loki that shows up in the comics?
Yeah.
So, and then there's that, when you see Owen Wilson's character Mobius in the beginning, he's in that church and there's that stained glass of what looks like the devil. And immediately I thought, oh, there's Mephisto. And then, but no, the horns, it looks like Loki. So where, again, I'm not big deep into the whole comic thing, but what's the deal with this female version of Loki that some online are starting to hint that maybe that's who this variant Loki that they're hunting?
See, I don't know much about the female Loki, to be honest with you. I'm kind of learning as we go along here too. Yeah. Because I just didn't, a female Loki really didn't interest me, to be honest with you, to look into it or anything like beforehand. Right.
Okay.
But no offense to Loki or anything, but yeah, I don't know, Mike. I'm learning like everybody is here who hasn't read up on it. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. I like that little, like when they're in the church there with that little girl and they show the devil on the thing there. And that was interesting, right? Like, who's behind all this? Is it Mephisto again? Are they going to start that whole rumor?
That's what I thought. Yeah. And then, but again, it's like, the big reveal at the end of the first episode is that they need Loki to hunt Loki because who knows Loki better than Loki? So, which is an interesting twist. Some interesting Easter eggs that were in the episode. Some people said they saw what looked like Peggy Carter in one of the scenes being sort of in the background being taken away by one of the TVA. So I'm wondering if they're going to, possibly explore that whole thing when Steve Rogers went back and, he kind of altered the timeline, or maybe he didn't. I don't know. There was a Skrull in one of the scenes, apparently. So now you got Skrulls involved with this.
So let me ask then. It's funny that we're into this phase of it. Have we been overloaded?
Oh,
because
I just don't have enough information on Loki yet.
But
like
I'm not talking about the two of you. I'm talking about like, are we overloaded? Because would it have done better if the world, like if everything wasn't reset, like kind of starting it over again? Because we were all glued to our TVs with nothing else to do than watch everything that they've put out. But now it's like everything's opening everywhere. I'm just not seeing the same hype about. I'm not seeing the same.
People want to go to the theaters. Wait till a Marvel movie comes out, man. I think.
Well, sure.
Black Widow is coming out next month.
Yeah.
So
it's just very interesting to me. I'm not seeing the same hype that it was before. I'm not seeing as much chatter about it online. I know it's only a couple of episodes, so again, we'll stick to
I'm sure it's fatigue.
I'm sure, but there's a bit of probably fatigue in that regard, which is interesting to me because. We touched on it a little bit before that by Endgame, I felt like everyone was kind of like, okay, and there it is. It's all over. Yeah. And then they start announcing these other things and everyone's like, okay, more Marvel. Okay. More Marvel. Well, we'll watch it because DC keeps fucking this shit up. So, we'll just keep watching it. It's great. And then, the whole thing behind WandaVision, and then that was amazing because almost everyone was out and then they, all got pulled back in and then it just swept everyone like, this is incredible. Yeah. But then Falcon's sort of like, it was all right. And now Loki's like, yeah, so far so good. Like it's kind of like these two have kind of like chilled it out. And now it's like the Solo of the Avengers.
I think, as I say, man, they should have strategically put out something Marvel, something Star Wars, something Marvel, something Star Wars.
Ooh.
For both, if they could. I don't know if they could put that together that way, but man, wouldn't that be great? You know what I mean?
Sorry, I was gonna say, who knows? Like with the way the pandemic has gone, that timelines, Marvel timelines, and Disney timelines might have had to be shifted. I mean, we saw that with Black Widow. It was supposed to come out before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then they had to sort of rewrite and rejig things with Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, who's apparently going to show up in the Black Widow film. I think it's fatigue. I mean, it's the one thing that kind of, I don't necessarily bummed me out, and maybe it's just me, but the way they explained the Infinity Stones in Loki, how, Loki opens up the drawer and the dude's got like a desk drawer full of Infinity Stones that, like we have paper clips, and they're not that big a deal. And yet nobody freaks out online about that. But God forbid, in the Star Wars realm, if something, is retconned or just brushed aside, it's like the end of the world. I think that's a pretty big deal, that they sort of explained away. Yeah, the Infinity Stones, they may mean something in this universe that we're in. But
the thing is that they can change anything. That's the whole point I think they're trying to make, is that if you have power over time, the stones are meaningless, because you get the stone and you just go back in time. Before you had the stone, now you don't have the stone.
And that's the question, Chris, about the stuff about time travel and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's going like, say, I'm not. The second episode might be mind blowing, man. It might tie into something really cool.
And I've heard that too. Because some of the reviewers have seen the first 2 episodes, and most reviews that I've read said the first one was okay to set things up, but the second one really sort of it draws you in, and it really sets the stage for the next 4 episodes after it. So I'm hopeful. It's nice to have I don't want to say an A-list player back on. Not to say that Wanda and Falcon and Bucky weren't A-list, but I find Loki is in the pecking order. If you're gonna talk minor characters or secondary characters, I think Loki is the bigger of the bunch. And you got Owen Wilson in there, man. Like, that's Lightning McQueen is in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I like it that a lot of these characters are showing up. We're getting new characters, like, there's Elaine, and there's Owen Wilson, and there's Crooked Nose, and there's Quiet Talking. But the funny thing is, now when I hear Owen Wilson speak, it only reminds me of Melissa Villaseñor from Saturday Night Live, because she does such a great Owen that I'm like,
she does.
Okay, gentlemen, rolling through it. We want to get into some Star Wars stuff.
Oh, I've been dying to talk about where are they going to go? Well, where are they going to go?
First things first. A little preview for our friends for next week. We'll get into this at the end, but we do have the creators of this show coming on next week. So a really awesome group of guys out of North Vancouver basically got all their friends together and filmed a series called Bucketheads, all about the stormtroopers and stuff. And it was all done on like small cameras, volunteer, not for profit. And it's blown up, and it's taken over, and it's amazing, getting great reviews, and just kind of written like it would be like us writing, like, hey man, like, oh man, you got shot. How'd that feel? Oh, it sucked. Like, just really cool, like inner conversations that are a little different than we're used to seeing in Star Wars. Those guys, North Van, it's blown up the internet. I saw a preview of it at at Fan Expo in Vancouver 2 years ago. Wow. Or 3 years ago, where they had the preview of it coming, and then everything shut down. But now the series is out. So those guys are coming on next week, cool. Which is going to be rad. So going forward, we're going to start talking now about Star Wars and how we would write the next trilogy, or the next 9, 10, 11, or 10, 11, 10, 11, 12.
Yes. Now, what direction do they go? What do they do?
Which direction do they go?
On, my friends.
All right. So Chris, do you want to talk about where you think it's going to go, or do you want to just drop some points and we'll add to it?
Whatever you want to do. So this didn't make it last week because we did our top fives, and we kept the top fives alive, man. There's a lot of top fives. That was good. So anyway, so direction of Star Wars. So here's the funny thing about, because I'm the biggest complainer about the newer movies. The comic books are really filling the holes in that stuff, right? That are. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know if you heard me mention that I got a comic book where it comes in right after Empire Strikes Back, and it goes between there and Return of the Jedi, and it's Vader, and it's what happened between Vader and Palpatine, you know, behind the scenes, and how mean Vader or Palpatine was to Vader, and how Vader was kind of playing the whole, you know, keeping Luke alive thing behind the scenes. So when it came to Luke getting his hand cut off, Palpatine retrieved Luke's hand, and that's how he created Jedi powers into these clones like Snoke. Did you know that, Mike? Did I mention that? Have you heard that?
I did not know that. No.
Okay. So how great would that?
I thought you said he's just going to keep the hand and put it in like a glass jar. Like, hey, look, Darth. Look,
I know, right?
Hand.
But how much would that have helped the newer movies to see that in there? And how cool would that have been to have that, you know, like, you know, because how the hell are you cloning somebody making powers, and how anyway, there's so many questions, and the comic book answers them really, really well. And it kind of shows you how if they would have known what they were doing ahead of time, how the newer trilogies could have been fantastic. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just that I hated all the characters and I hated the direction it was going. It wasn't that. It was that Disney and even the people that were writing the movie, oh no, this was all planned. And then now that everything's said and done, they asked the actors and actresses, they said it was planned from the beginning, and they actually laugh. You know, Ridley, what's her name?
Daisy Ridley.
She laughs. Oh no, actually, up until a month before the newest movie, I was Obi-Wan was my dad, and the rest of them are laughing about it too. Well, all the bigwigs are no, we planned this from the beginning. You know what? Up yours, buddy. Don't do that to your fans. That pissed me off. And plus, it was so that's a lot more to it than what, you know. And it hit me right here, my friend. But anyway, if they would have had some of these things in the comic books as flashbacks in the newer trilogies, man, they would have did it properly. But again, they didn't plan it out. Got to plan the shit. The comics are fantastic. It's answering all the questions. They're retconning some major problems with the last movies that maybe it would be cool if they did like a little movie to fix just to kind of tie things in and answer some questions. But I guess it's kind of too late for that. People are over those movies.
Well, hang on a sec, because I don't know if you saw, they were talking about the new the Book of Boba Fett that Disney's doing, and Tamira Morrison was explaining how that show is going to take place between Empire and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, nice.
So maybe what you're talking about, maybe there's some stuff that they can incorporate from these comics now that Filoni is essentially taken over. You know, I think he's more in charge of the Star Wars properties from a creative standpoint than anybody at this point.
Yeah, he's got the hot hand for sure.
Yeah, so maybe they use, you know, because a lot of people are like, do we really need a Boba Fett series? Do we really need an Obi-Wan series?
That's JJ. That's JJ.
Well,
give us a Vader series, man. Give us a Darth Vader trilogy. Yeah. See, that's what I was going to say, Mike, is like, when they come to this new one, man, how great would a Darth Vader trilogy be? Like, get in there. Let's see Vader, man. Let's see the layers of Vader. And again, in the comic book, the way Palpatine treated Vader in between, like, because it's almost like the stormtroopers talking behind the scenes when they show the way that Palpatine was to Vader. And if Vader wasn't on a mission, Palpatine was totally testing him, like in the books, right? Like, and sending him to a planet with like, you have to survive on this planet and you have to find this and bring it back to me because I need it. No, your lightsaber won't be going with you. And then he sends like this bounty hunter to make it more difficult for him. And it's just awesome episode and things like that.
Hey, that's Vader gets out. That's just tough love.
Well, yeah, I know, right? But it's always triggering. It's of course always triggering Vader to go back to his decisions he's made. And so the cool thing that I liked about what they're showing in the comic book is the layers of Vader and him always going, like, you look at Vader and it's like, oh man, he's completely evil now. He just likes killing people. When they get inside his mind, he keeps going back to all these little things that he did, like in the past that led him to the dark side, or when he hit the dark side that he did. It's always in his head, and it shows that that's part of the dark side. You don't escape the things that you do, you use them to make you more angry. And the Vader solo comic really shows that. And that's one thing that I would love to see them do in the new movies. I would love a Vader trilogy, man. Like a real gritty one, man.
I can see that happening, Chris. I can see them going,
or TV show, you know what I mean?
That's
just one idea.
The TV show, the TV show would be great, but I can see that.
We've got Hayden Christensen coming back for Obi-Wan, and he's apparently not just going to be sort of like a cameo here and there. He's going to be a regular in the series. Again, maybe this is something that they're going to explore more of, the turmoil that he went through after, he got he lost because he didn't have the high ground.
Interesting point because he does have to pay for that farm in Uxbridge. He's got
that's right.
He's got to pay for that farm in Uxbridge with his model wife. No, but this would be interesting to your point, Chris, about the Vader thing, because to what you've said about the comics, the interesting part is they're relatively new, right? The comic, the Vader comic.
This is all brand new stuff that's coming out.
Yeah. So,
by the way, what's the name of the comic, Chris?
It's Darth Vader. There's Darth Vader and there's Star Wars, and but you got it like the newer ones, right? Like because they keep starting them over.
Okay.
So if he's going to be in this Obi-Wan series, then perhaps like they did with out of Mandalorian, where they dropped the Boba Fett thing, maybe out of. And this ties in with Christmas when everything feels great. Maybe out of Obi-Wan, there's like this thing, and then it's like Vader, spring 22, and then it's Vader, and it's all based on that, Chris. And so I could see that happening, which would, in essence, could tell that backstory, and then maybe it's a series that leads into something that. And then the announce of like 10, 11, and 12 are coming. And it's like that all ties. And then these guys' job is just to completely clean up this jumbled mess and take all those, take 8, 9, 10, or sorry, 7, 8, 9 and go, okay, yeah, we did it like this, but now we're going to tie all those loose ends up. And here we go. That makes the most sense to me. But
could you imagine if the next one they do like a Dallas, and they start the next movie with Ben,
getting out of a shower and going,
it's all a dream. Exactly. It was all like a dream. It was all what are they, I was meditating, and it was what could have happened in the future, but it's not what happened. And then he goes out into the playground with the other young Jedi. And we start over again.
But then he stumbles and it's like, what's the matter? What's the matter, Ben?
They did it on Newhart. Why can't they do it on this?
It's as if there were a million nerds in the universe screaming out loud and then suddenly silence. So yeah.
That's great. But that's one way they could do it, right? They could do that. But another one that I would love to see, and again, TV show might be a better route. But are you guys familiar with Darth Plagueis, the one that trained Palpatine?
Oh, well, he can apparently cheat death.
Yeah, and he's the one, and this all goes back to kind of the creation of Anakin, right? And how Plagueis discovered how to create life, but he did something wrong, and it all turned back on him. And then there's still that mystery of was it Plagueis or was it Palpatine that actually created Vader? Because there's a gray area there. I've listened to the audiobook about Plagueis. It is good, man. Wow, that's a great story. Palpatine. If you don't know, Darth Plagueis trained Palpatine, Darth Sidious, and then when Sidious became Chancellor in episode was it 2, I guess?
Yes, Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, he officially became Chancellor. So after that, he went back and he killed Plagueis. So it's in between those. So he's still, training under Plagueis at this point in episode 2. So after he gets Chancellor, him and Plagueis are celebrating, and Plagueis is getting really drunk, and Sidious gets him so drunk that he's like, he's not going to be able to fight back, and he kills his master. So because there'll only be one, right? And then he moves on. So this kind of intertwines with what goes on in some of those movies. And it's always cool to see the behind the scenes things of what a character's doing when you don't see him in a movie, like the stormtroopers talking and stuff. So I think the story of Plagueis would be amazing. I would really like to see that. I did want to see like a Yoda movie too, but now that we've got the child, I don't know if I think
Plagueis goes animated.
Well, that would be cool too. I would just love to see the story and see it done. See it like visually instead of listening to it, which would be really cool. I don't know if we don't really need to see any more about the Yodas, I guess, huh? Because we've never seen their planet or where they come from. That was the only.
Sounds like something that'd show up on like ABC Spark or Nick Jr.
Right?
The Yodas.
That would be awesome. Anything I put down anything Vader, of course. Yeah.
Well,
okay,
and I think
I like that. I like that. Mike, we'll go to you one sec. I'll just say to your point, Chris, I'm on that train. I think I'm going to predict that out of Kenobi, we get a Vader series.
Cool. That would be great.
And then out of that Vader series, we get an announcement that 10, 11, and 12 are coming.
Nice.
That Lucas is heavily involved in. I would feel.
Nah.
I'm just saying. And then, but they let the gang clean up the mess. I think that you need to let Lucas's brain back in a little bit. You don't need his cheesiness per se, but he still had, I know he only had a vision of this, but I think having him in some capacity, at least advise, which I don't believe he was allowed to do on these last three.
No.
So I think if you're going to go with it and hand the reins over to these guys, you have him just like a little bit like, what did you have in your notes? And we're gonna reference some of that with some of this.
He had Darth Maul, right? He wanted to have Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Be,
so that's right. That's right. I think it's gonna go Obi-Wan. I think Mandalorian will be on its own and tie in that Boba Fett thing. But I think it's gonna go Obi-Wan. Then they're gonna announce a Vader series, and then that's gonna lead to some announcement of a new trilogy. And that's what I'm going to predict, but that's probably 2 years down the way and be much grayer. And we'll be into episode 500 of this podcast. Mike? Yeah,
I don't think Lucas, I honestly think that time has passed and that Lucas is so, unlike Stan Lee, no, I mean, the comparison to say Stan Lee in the Marvel universe,
right?
Stan Lee really did have a handle on all these characters and the stories and so forth. So there's a pretty big catalog of material that these new directors and these new writers can draw from that Stan Lee, up until his death was a real, integral part of making sure that it made sense and that it was kind of what he saw, like his vision and stuff like that. I think Lucas, when Return of the Jedi ended, I think that was it. I honestly, I don't think that he had anything left creatively from the Star Wars universe. I think it sort of took on a life of its own, and you can see it now. Like, I think with guys like Filoni and with Favreau, that the spirit of George Lucas and what he envisioned for his original trilogy, I think they're just taking that. And some of the stuff that's been built over the years, the new characters and the stories, I don't think there's much George Lucas left aside from the name and the original characters. So I disagree. I don't think George Lucas has anything to do anymore with it.
Interesting. I mean, he sold it off, sure, but I think they'd be insane to try to take it in another direction without consulting.
I don't think there was enough Lucas source material that would have stretched out this long, like in comparison to what the Marvel universe did with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I don't think that there was as much George Lucas material to stretch out, which is why you're seeing The Mandalorian, like where that sort of developed from. I think the days of, George Lucas in 76 with, these no-name actors and the magic at the time, it was a one and done. And I think he was just as guilty of making it up as he was going when he did Empire and Return of the Jedi, except, he kind of knocked it out of the park, whether it was a fluke or not.
He had a script. I've read the scripts. He had it. There was a couple things with Vader and Luke that were a little changed, but the basis of that original trilogy, he had it scoped out. I'm such a nerd. He had that scoped out, and the drawings, dude. Oh my gosh, I have the book that has all the drawings from the movies,
Ralph McQuarrie, the Ralph McQuarrie thing. Yeah, I have that as well. Yeah, it's amazing.
Sensational. It is. I teach a class on that, Mike. Like one of my classes that I teach for comic book is just that book and how because people don't understand that Star Wars came from these drawings and somebody telling them how it looked. No, it was all like he knew it, and then you tell the kid, it's like, well, how did he show him with a? Oh wait, because they're about to say with a computer, with a screen, with this, and then they're like, no, it's drawings. It's drawings. Oh wow, and then you show them, they're like, whoa, that doesn't look like Chewie, or wow, that's a weird looking Darth Vader, and it's great. It's
and that's part of the reason why I think the George Lucas, the ties to George Lucas are done now.
Wouldn't that be kind of admitting defeat by Disney too? Bringing Lucas, like after buying him out, saying we don't want you here anymore, and then bringing him back in.
No, because the actual property and the potential of the Star Wars universe from a creative standpoint, I think is potentially more infinite than the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
As crazy as that sounds. But to your point, we're in a time now where everything is visual. There's no longer that I wrote a story or I wrote a book and you have to imagine what it was and make up these images in your mind and if I talk about this alien creature, it's up to your imagination to figure out what it looks like. It's almost now that you've got this whole generation of filmmakers, of creators, of writers, that were raised on visual as opposed to like like written material. Like it's more of a visual like TV film
Well,
background.
let's ask the comic book artist. So, Chris, when you're mapping out Skeletron, available now on all your purchases.
I'm doing a graphic novel right now for a novel that
there it is.
That's great.
When you're mapping out Skeletron in a story,
this is a better one, Brent, because I've been given a novel that's already written, and I'm turning that into a graphic novel. So what they're doing is they're giving me a chapter and saying, sum up this chapter in one page. So they're going the route of having it's graphic novel, right? So it's not as much art. I'm doing 17 pages for it. So this is exactly what I'm doing right now. And the gentleman that I'm working with, we'll have him on the show. I can't talk. I can't give too much information about it because I've just started the first page. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a gatefold page. It's really cool. But that's what I'm doing. And the first thing I had to do was take some characters that he described in the book, and I had to draw them out. And then this gentleman is so cool that he's like, I'm hiring you because I want your vision on this. I don't want to spoon feed you every detail about these characters and how I want the art to look. I love your style. I want you to do what you do. All he says, just please read the book. He says, you know what I mean? Like just read the book, get inside the characters, and then just do what you do. And that's what I'm doing. And this guy is so cool that usually when I do a job, I have to send them the rough pencils. I have to send them the finished pencils. I've sent them the inks. And then then send them the color. He doesn't want to see anything until this is done. This is how much this guy trusts me. That's amazing, which is cool. So it's on one level, it's cool because I've come to this level where I'm actually being trusted by an artist out of the UK, and this is amazing. Like, this is a company, so that's great. It's really, really cool. So when you're envisioning these people, this is the thing about it. Not everybody can just go, oh, I picture this girl, from descriptions. It's a hard thing to do. At the same time, what I try and do when I'm doing things like that is think of you got to think of another character. So, for example, I had one female character who I kind of akined to Tank Girl. So I watched a little bit of Tank Girl. I look some Tank Girl pictures, bada bing, bada boom. I got an amalgamation of this girl. It doesn't look like Tank Girl anymore, but I got the vibe in there. I'm big vibe. I go off vibes. You know what I mean? So if I'm drawing something space age, I'll watch Star Wars. I get the Star Wars vibe in my head. That kind of thing. So it depends on it is a job I think that will always be out there. But it's a tough thing to do. You got to be a weird creative individual, I think, you know what I mean, to pull those ideas out. And then you have to have a catalog to be trusted to do something like this off the bat. Because I've had gigs doing stuff like this before, and actually I wished I didn't take on the gig because like they say, the one Pinky. Why don't we do a whole other version and put the nails red and blue on the girl instead? And it's like, seriously, you want me to what? And maybe just swoop, take one piece of the hair and swoop it over. You couldn't have told me this before the picture was done. I like it, but this guy's great. So when you get to a level of professionality, you get hired to just interpret it, and that's what you need to do.
And that's amazing. And like you said, not everybody has that ability to pull something original. And I say this even with what I do when it comes to scripts. Everything, almost, I'd say 95% of copy, like commercial copy that I deal with, is a variation on a theme that's been done before.
Right.
So if you can recognize the pattern, if you can recognize sort of where the inspiration comes from, it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. The trick is in this very visual time that we're in now, especially for younger people, is to tap into that creative space where you're coming up with stuff that hasn't been done, or that isn't a variation on a theme, or that isn't, well, it's kind of like a mix between such and such and such and such and such and such, which you go back to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I mean, there wasn't somebody that resembled Spider-Man back then. Like that came from somewhere in the genius creative minds of these guys. So I think that's where, I really, I know there are people, and those are the ones that are going to, take, for instance, the next Star Wars trilogy and make it more than just, a rehash that we've already seen, but swapping out, kind of like Force Awakens, I remember
but
seeing,
it was cozy. Speaking of similarities, today's podcast is brought to you by Costco glasses.
I got mine from the mall.
We're all in
mine
the
are Arnett's.
We'd like to thank Costco Glasses for allowing us to see tonight's show, and all of us in HD.
Without my glasses, I look like I've been smoking weed all day, and it's so funny because today I haven't been, but I always look like, oh my god! And then I put my glasses on.
My wife said,
"Hey guys, how's it going?" You know what I mean?
My wife's like, she's like, "Do you guys all shop at the same store?" I'm like, we're all just getting
this
old.
Is still part of my old wrestling gimmick. That's why.
That's right.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on to some wrestling before we wrap the show. But okay, final thoughts on Star Wars here for a minute, because final thoughts on Star Wars, because we touched on like individual, like the Vader and some little things like that. Any other, like, if you're sitting down right now and they said, and I'll say to you, Chris first, Chris, check this out. You've been given carte blanche to write 10, 11, and 12. And I need, we need your one page. We need your one pager in the next 10 minutes. Where do you want to take the story? Like, where would you take that story? Based on where it ended.
I kind of like the idea of Ben waking up and having it be a premonition. And because I would love to have more of Luke in there, but that's, I'm one of those guys that I think too much about stories. So I would still like to see the birth of the Sith or the birth of the Jedi. I think that would be amazing, because just in my mind, then I know where it came from, because I like to know where things came. I like origins and like knowing where something started. I'd love to see the beginning of that, especially the Sith. I'm really interested with the Sith, the way they went through their whole battles of, first there was tons of them on the planet, but they couldn't get together. I think that would be fantastic to go back to the original ones.
What were the last ones? Force Awakens. What was it? Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker, right? That was the name of them. So it would be rad to be like the birth of Jedi, or the Jedi Rises, or the Jedi Awakens.
Right. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. And then to have it end with like and it goes like, it wouldn't have to just be one time. You could kind of have it span out. You know what I mean? So that you're showing kind of the history of it. Maybe, I don't know. That's see, again, as huge as it would be to have a trilogy of Vader movies would be pretty amazing, man. Just because I've seen what they can do with it, and it's the way he was always getting wrapped up with bounty hunters and all these other characters in the galaxy that you were aware of, and it wasn't a cheesy like, oh well, just throw him in the story. It was like, wow, that could have happened. It was really cool to see. But then again, oh dude, see, I go on forever about that. I've suggested we did a whole.
You got 30 seconds,
man. Well, again, I would love to just redo the story from Return of. I would love to have that be like a premonition, and because I would love to see the Jedi being trained. I want to see Ben a little younger, man. I want to see the Skywalkers growing up. That's just me, though. I felt they skipped the best part of the story and went to like when nobody would care. So I don't know, man. I would kind of like to read to kind of stick it to the new ones and go a little before them.
Yeah.
Or go at the beginning with the Jedi stuff. So there's
Mike. Same question,
Chris. You want to do a DC. You want to just re-image the whole Star Wars trilogy.
Just the newest ones.
Just the newest ones.
Yeah.
All right, Mike.
I do.
Yeah, as much as I would love to see the prequel of the prequels, like a prequel trilogy of a prequel trilogy, kind of, that birth of the Jedi and the Sith. I think in the grand scheme of things, just think of how awkward it was watching, the prequel trilogies and then following that up into the trilogy that we knew. Visually, it's jarring. Rogue One kind of did a better job of sort of leading into A New Hope from a visual standpoint. So as far as the prequels go, unless you're going to do a complete blow it up and start again reboot, I say you leave the prequel, the all the good stuff. Like I agree with Chris. I would love to have seen like the training and sort of like the backstories but I think that's the one great thing about the comics and about the graphic, about the novels and even the graphic novels, that's the place to get that stuff. And the people that would really appreciate it are the ones that will gravitate to those forms of media. The average
You should see the selection of You should see the selection of Star Wars comic books, Mike.
Oh, I can imagine.
Like if you go to a comic book store now, there's like there's a Marvel section, there's a DC section, and then there's the Star Wars section up top, right? Because there's so many other characters that do have their own comic books too.
And I think
some of them are really good, some of them are bad.
And I think that's great. And I think that's exactly, think about the general population and the general public. As much as, nerds like us would love to see those backstories, the average Joe doesn't really care. So I love the fact that there is that outlet for those stories so that, when you want to know, it's there. As far as like the next trilogy,
there's a difference between what they should do and what I want them to do as well, right? Like what they should do is another thing.
Admiral Thrawn. I go back to the Timothy Zahn books.
Yeah.
If you can rejig those, like the story, that trilogy.
Well, that's already coming in though, right?
I think
that's already coming in through Mandalorian.
I mean, we don't know how deep the Admiral Thrawn stuff, but like the Jorah Sabath, the crazy Jedi that makes evil Luke. I'd love to see them take that story, but brand new. Like just rejig it because Han and Leia, they're not there. You don't have the twins like Jason Jaden. I can't remember now.
Jason and Jaden. Jason with a C.
Yeah. So I mean,
they were. Oh fuck! I would
love to see that. But yeah, I think by the time those 3 movies come out, it's just you gotta blow it up and start new. Make the next trilogy the legit original trilogy for a whole new generation. So like what Star Wars Empire and Return was for us, and what to a certain extent the prequel trilogies were for, like my kids maybe, or actually younger than my kids. You do that with the next trilogy. You start something new, maybe dab back into, some of the history and the lore. It's
going to be interesting though, Mike, because with Disney Plus and with these things that all these streaming services that have basically taken over. I mean, like Amazon just bought MGM. Yeah. I mean, the way of the like, I think we touched on this before, like the movie experience is never going to go away. I get that part of it, but the way The Mandalorian was shot and all the money that's being put into having these series look like movies, there's this really weird line now. So they can cover so much off. That's why I said they can cover so much off in the Kenobi series. They can cover so much off in the Vader series that those movies have to be, to your point, like
blockbusters. They have
to be this whole other thing.
Yeah.
And the shark has to look even more real. Like it just has to be like more. It just has to be this whole new thing. And I wonder if like a texture feel is going to change it up, if it has to have the same feel. Like I don't know, but it's really like I'd be happy with like all right, it's 10 years after the fact. Rey's got, I was down with Rey. I thought she was great, but I would love to have that. I thought that would tie into something else that, really maybe at the end of like we thought it was Luke was a chosen one, and we thought Rey, and we thought Ben, but maybe we don't get that answer till number 12, and it's little Alf Skywalker.
Oh Lord! Like, no, I think Mike's right. You got to get past that.
You got to get past the nostalgia.
My only problem is I'm afraid of the new creative teams because they're so everything's got to be politically correct, and we got to make sure we have this in there, and we got to have this in there. I would love to somebody just to come in and write a good Star Wars movie, and I would be behind that 100%.
Right there, what you said, it all comes down to the story. And again, if Dave Filoni really is being given a lot more pull in the Star Wars universe, then I'll take Dave Filoni's vision.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll pull him from the king of the TV shows and boost him up to the movies. There's no way he could do both. Like he can't.
It's so weird how they don't like those two to cross over. It really is.
Exactly. That's I'm wondering if they're just going to strictly keep him to TV. But going back to the Thrawn thing, there's no way that they can just touch on Thrawn and leave, right? Because that story is huge. He's such a great character. Again, layers to him. So the cool thing that I'm thinking is I think we're probably going to see a lot of TV shows involving Thrawn. So again, they'll probably keep him away from the movies, but I can see him being a huge part of the upcoming TV series.
Stuff
Either that, or they sprinkle him, or they tee him up in the TV.
Oh, for a movie, that'd be a good way to go. Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Because you're basically setting up a Thanos style bad guy with the backstory in the TV series that's getting a lot of eyeballs on it.
Yeah, that'd be a great way to go.
When it comes time to a trilogy, you know who your bad guy is. There's no mistake. It's how bad is he, and how do the good guys overcome the bad guys? And I don't know.
Speaking of creative and bad creative, it's time to move to some wrestling for a minute.
Ding, ding, ding.
Because we got to wrap up here in a bit. But man, oh man, I Chris, you have some questions for Mike this time on the wrestling side of it?
Actually, I just want to hear. I need to get caught up on wrestling. I have been watching.
So I'll catch you up. So Raw's
watching Shotgun Saturday Night lately. Shotgun Saturday.
No. I'll bring you up on wrestling. I'll bring you up on wrestling. Number one, Raw is a shit show. SmackDown. Yeah, Raw's a shit show that no one's watching.
You got to tell me why, though. You can't just tell me it sucks or it's shitty. I need to know why.
No, it's just there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there.
Like there's no stars there.
No, there's no star. There's no story. I mean, we're missing our boy Adam, but I think he's more of a SmackDown guy overall. But what I'm saying is there is nothing to me right now that's engaging. They've even put Orton with Riddle. I'm like, there's nothing.
Oh no. That's about the only thing that I'm really digging on.
It's funny, but what I'm saying, Mike, is I'm really like, I just listened to Corrigan on Jericho's podcast about NWA and NWA and how he's taking that direction and all the little partnerships. You want to talk about something that needs a reboot?
Yeah,
this WWE needs a major. They just canned a bunch of guys. Remember, I called, by the way, P.S. called the Strowman release way back on our WrestleMania preview. I called it. But what I'm saying is if there's anything that needs a reboot, and it got a real boost years ago with NXT, it got a real boost with the women's division. Then they put up a graphic, and I wish I had it. They put up a graphic of like where everyone was lying, and like the graphic for like the Raw, I think the Raw side only had like 4 or maybe 5 women. SmackDown had a bunch, but it just wasn't even. Something needs to change. Like I'm personally feel like they're in some trouble here. I think they're in some trouble until they got to get the fans back. I get it, but I'm man, there's the storylines are so just shite.
Okay, you got to look at it from 2 different sides. Okay,
sure.
First off, there is the business side. So no big secret that the WWE and their board of directors has had some facelift over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
Nick Khan, not to be confused with Tony Khan of AEW, but Nick Khan he's the CEO now. Like
they cut a bunch of people. Yeah.
He's an entertainment guy. You know, he comes from he worked for CAA, like the agency in LA. So he comes from the entertainment. And I mean, any interviews that Stephanie McMahon's done recently, there's a lot of talk how WWE sees themselves as a media brand, not so much a wrestling brand anymore. And that's the thing, is they're not really concerned with their core, like their core audience anymore.
I get it. I hear all these interviews though, Mike, of all these wrestlers that have been canned, and you listen to them talking.
Those are wrestlers.
But you listen to them about like creative. You listen to Aleister Black, who was like, I was sitting there with this amazing character and they didn't know what to do with it. It's like, how can you be surrounded with so many talented people that can't write a storyline?
He's a wrestler. And I love Tommy End is amazing. And if he ends up in AEW, from a wrestling fan standpoint, he's lights out, and he's a good dude. Like, he's a really good dude, really creative, really good in the ring. scratched the surface in WWE. But he's a wrestler. I look at WWE now and look who you got. Who's the guy that they're pushing to the moon? Roman Reigns. He is your John Cena for the next 10 to 15 years. That's the guy. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
They could have somebody come along. He's the guy. They are working towards him versus The Rock at WrestleMania next year, because that's, he's beaten everybody else. He's beaten all the legends, and that's, old school. You pass the torch to the next guy. He is the guy. He's got that look. He can cross over. He can be a Rock. He can be, a Batista to a certain extent. That's what they've got. What's her face? Eva. She just came back at Raw last night. And lots of people were freaking out, like purists freaking out that, the Iconics were let go, that somebody like Mickie James, who's got like such a great pedigree. And again, really nice person, really smart mind.
Now guiding the NWA women's division, by the way.
Absolutely. So, but you've got Eva Marie coming back. Well, she's got a look. And it's not just, her femininity. She's got a look that's marketable, that you can transcend wrestling. Sasha Banks made the crossover to Disney with The Mandalorian. I think from a strictly business standpoint, that's what they're going for. They want people that they can, if NBC comes calling, I'm still convinced NBC is going to buy the WWE.
They want to be able to pimp their product out.
Me too, 100%. I think this company.
I can put The Miz into some NBC show.
Mm-hmm.
I can put John Morrison, same thing, in there. I can, Rey Mysterio. I can put in Edge. Well, hello, yeah, you've got a guy that's got TV experience. John Cena's coming back for SummerSlam. I mean, they have. They're not blatantly coming out saying, yeah, screw you wrestling fans, but look at what they're doing. They hired Adnan Virk, who I love. Like, I know Adnan
to do commentary
from the Score days and
right.
Sportsnet. The guy, he's a wrestling fan, but he was way out of his league. But Nick Khan brought him in because he's an ESPN guy. He's a legit sports guy, sports commentator. They brought in the guy from MMA now, Jimmy Smith, I think it is.
But they all call the matches the same. They're all calling the matches the same. It's all, anyways. It's getting. I see your point, Mike, but it's getting frustrating, especially when you watch the documentaries on AE. You watch and I get the adapt or die. I don't want to be the old guy here saying they're not doing it right. But you've got to still engage us and the kids. My kids, like, were sitting there when Adam returned, we're just like, wow. And when Kofi won the title, they were like, wow, that's a story you build. And I'm amazed.
Absolutely.
With the people that are there. I know where you're going, Mike, but what I'm saying is like, I've never felt like this back a long time ago after WCW took him over, and I didn't start watching it again until Michaels returned, because I thought, well, there's a comeback story and here's the evil kid coming back. And I'm like, there you go. What's going to get me back in? And I'm like, I don't know. It has to be something really great.
I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you exactly what it is.
John Cena heel turn. And
no, it's not even WWE, dude.
Yeah. Okay.
AEW, NWA, all these other organizations that, just strictly from a business standpoint, what is your core audience? Who is your core? Who is the P1 in radio? We used to call it the P1s. Those are your listeners. They're the ones that live and die by your station. They're the ones that are with you in the good, the bad, the ugly. They're the ones that are going to go out and promote your product when nobody knows or wants to hear about your product. Those are your P1s. That's your core. The WWE core is no longer you, me, and the guys that watch wrestling.
Bullshit.
No, from their business, from the money standpoint, they've got, okay, think of the library that they have. Financially, they've got a library that will be worth more than any WrestleMania that they can put
look
on.
at all the stuff Chris watches.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But that's it. That's their history. That's their past. That's the bread and butter that's their retirement fund. Put it that way. Wrestling is not their business anymore. It is what they're known for, but it's not what they want to be known for moving forward. Tony Khan, the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, those guys, they're wrestlers. They understand their core audience are wrestling purists who know that guys like Tommy End, Aleister Black, who are the Iconics, well, not the Braun Strowmans. Although I got to say, Braun does have he's got some definite value.
Sure.
Size-wise.
I don't think anyone that's ever done anything in WWE doesn't have value. Even Jinder could go there and be like,
but the wrestlers, that's where you're going to see, and you're seeing it now, if AEW is for the wrestling fan. Like I watch Dynamite. I don't watch their secondary shows as much as I should. But I watch Dynamite. It's entertaining. It's because it's a wrestling show. It's what I grew up on. It's what I enjoy, they've got fairly decent stories. There's some things, growing pains that they can work on, but when it comes down to, Raw is, the quote is the drizzle shits. There's not much to watch. It's 3 hours. They can't put on a show. They can't put on a good show because I don't think anybody knows who their core audience is anymore. Because
I got a question. Can I interject here? I was just curious about something. So if WWE is not focusing on wrestling that much anymore, they're focusing on producing superstars, but aren't they becoming superstars because they're wrestlers? So if they're not the I'm just outside looking in here. So if they're not the primo wrestling company, are these people going to not start looking at other wrestling companies? Because, like, you know what I mean? Like, and if people stop watching, like, people aren't going to watch WWE because they're all good looking people that look like actors, right? They want to watch it for the story and for the wrestling. So my question is, if it's going down, like the ratings are going down, is that a bad mode that they're doing? Or are they about to hit bottom? Like, and how are they going to have celebrities out of the wrestling if nobody's watching the wrestling? Do you know what I mean? Doesn't one hand wash the other?
Celebrities. Think about what they did with celebrities. Look how
they used the wrestling to make them celebrities, right?
Well, yeah.
They used the wrestling channel. They weren't on like a shopping channel. They were on a wrestling channel.
But what they did with, for instance, Bad Bunny. Here's a rapper that is a whole different demographic that they tend to get these days.
Who is this?
Bad Bunny.
I've never heard of Bad Bunny.
He was
amazingly. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
I've heard of like a lot.
You're not missing anything. He's a massive Latin, totally smart by WWE, massive Latin hip hop star.
That's the deal. They got eyes onto the WWE, not wrestling, WWE, because this, famous rapper that has a huge audience is now all of a sudden seeing guys like, Drew McIntyre. They're watching for Bad Bunny, but
what is he? He's a wrestler?
No,
yeah, but he was a rapper. But here's the thing: they've always done.
What's he doing on WWE?
But they've never focused it as much. Like they never get. It was usually like specialty things. WrestleMania. You had Floyd Mayweather. You had the
Mr. T.
You had Mr. T. Yeah, that's always been in the DNA of what Vince does. It's that mixing of entertainment medias and bringing all these different eyes to the product. Whereas originally it was bring these eyes to a wrestling product. I don't necessarily think it's bringing the eyes for the wrestling product. It's bringing it here for the glitz and glamour. And we've got a couple of people that are larger than life that, you should probably take a look at, the Drew McIntyre.
So if they're losing audience, if they're losing viewers though, is this not working?
I don't think they care because NBC paid a shit ton of money for the network.
Right.
So it's all about content. Let's.
Wait, sorry. So this is the outside looking in because I don't watch. Are we looking at the end of WWF wrestling?
I don't think we're looking at the end of WWF as
sorry. You know what I mean? Like the classic. Is this it for it? Is that it?
As what we knew, I think so. I think it's to that point now where. They're not
a guy like me. A guy like me probably would never watch. A guy like me would probably never tune into the WWE.
Well,
not as much anymore.
somebody new, Chris. So like we all.
I'm just using myself as an example.
Yeah.
Like I'm just as an old school wrestler who loves watching wrestling. You know, like, I probably wouldn't want to tune into WWE anymore. Well, it's fine. I'm just trying to wrap my head around what's going on with it, right?
Think about the waves. Think about the waves for a minute. Think about the waves of like what reset the business. Mike, your point, 100% valid. I mean, it's all about media now. I mean, look at what Spotify's doing. Jesus Christ, Spotify just buying everything for media and content. And look, even what we're doing at the Blundell Network with like everyone doing video. It's all about content, micro content. Totally get it. I wouldn't be surprised if you started seeing 2-minute matches that have to fit within a Twitter post. The thing is,
those it was just squash matches, right? Boom, boom,
sure.
boom, boom.
But I think that
because wrestling was the focus back then.
Yeah, and I think that what brought it back. So think about like the wave we all got caught up with Hogan, the Hogan wave, and then then it kind of tailed off, and then WCW made a rise, and then the Hogan heel turn. Everyone's like, "Holy shit, Hulk Hogan's a bad guy." And then Austin,
Steve Austin, The Rock.
And then it was like, "Holy shit!" And then it kind of tailed, and then they were on a pretty decent run. Like Cena, regardless of whatever people felt about it, he had a real good run. They had some great stuff going on there. Edge, all these guys that were there at the time. Then the Punk thing, and then it kind of like
they were still.
It's missing that water cooler thing right now.
Yeah, but because they back then, think about it, they were playing to an audience that was into wrestling. That was the entertainment. The entertainment was the wrestling, which is why you had, stories and storylines and
like MTV, man. It's exactly like MTV. You start off with music. You can't find music on MTV anymore.
Not like much music, same thing. By the end,
I was just using MTV as an example because
totally.
So Beavis and Butthead, man. Woo.
That's where I think Tony Khan and Billy Corgan to their credit, and I guess Anthem Sports up in Canada with Impact Wrestling is there is still, it may not be as big a pie as it used to be, but there's still a core audience that want to watch wrestling that they remember growing up. And you've got
I can't wait to see some indie matches here in Kingston now that things are rolling again, man. I'm so excited for that.
And
stoked.
That's where they're going to make their stand, and that's how they're going to differentiate themselves from WWE. They don't have the library. They don't have, Cody Rhodes fought for so long to get his name back.
Yeah, that sucks.
His name.
I almost lost my name to Rogers. Yeah, no, I almost lost my name to Rogers. I almost did a show with Rogers.
Oh man!
And it was funny because after I go through the things, and we will keep ownership of your name. Well, the show was called Machete. Chris Machete. So they're going to get, and it was a friend of mine that was hooking me up with it too, that me and Brent both know. And it was like, "Hey, buddy, no, they'll own your name." It's like, you didn't think you should tell me that? What the F, dude?
Yeah,
man.
So, I mean, they won't have that unless at some point Tony Khan buys the WWE library, which if NBC gets it, it'll be like Michael Jackson buying the Beatles library.
Right.
I think there's always room for it. I think talent wins in that regard. I think that a good storyline to your point, Mike. I understand it's an entertainment company, but they're still not going to be able to get away totally from what it is that brought them there. And I think that there's still some potential over the next couple of years to roll on that. I think that there's, it's unfortunate that the new guys aren't leading the charge in that. I still think it's going to be like Roman and Adam, and great for Adam. I'm just saying Roman, Adam, Cena. Right. Like, hey, whatever it's going to cost, let's get Punk back. Like just saying, it's one of those things where I feel like it's still,
but
it's in that everyone's stepping in the mud. And
call me cynical. And, I'm a little biased because I have seen a little bit behind the curtain.
100%. Yeah.
And I know a little, like fraction
sure.
of there's what's said on the internet and then there's the truth. So, I honestly, a CM Punk return would be a Band-Aid. It would not. Sure. It'd be like the Ultimate Warrior when he came back.
Yeah.
It popped the crowd, and then it
could it be a bridge more than a Band-Aid, possibly? Could it be possibly more of a bridge than a Band-Aid if they had something to back it up after?
NXT, hey, Mike. NXT is as close as you're going to get to what you and I remember of the WWE. And it's a fantastic show. And kudos to them for hiring Samoa Joe back. He came back tonight on NXT.
And wow. You know what would be interesting? I was just thinking about this the other day. You know, if they had to blow the whole thing up and be like, we need to restart this thing, and be like, and they could come at it and be like, Raw, you're not cutting it. You're gone. SmackDown, you're not cutting it. You're gone. NXT is the only thing that's left, and y'all got to try out to get into it. Yeah. Y'all got to kind of come in.
That'd be great. But you know what? Raw, SmackDown, NXT, it's WWE is the focus. It's not wrestling. It's not the brands. Sure. It's not the wrestlers. It's WWE as the name. That's what they're selling.
It's that good punk rock band that became the band with 2 keyboardists and a violinist behind there, right?
It's not the sum of the parts.
What you're saying is they're the offspring. So
no, it's you're not buying the Eagles. You're buying what's his face? Don
Henley.
No, not Don Henley. The other one. Oh my God, I can't remember.
The guy that wrote
the guy who wrote a lot of this stuff.
Fender?
Sorry, Chris?
Is it Fender or Fendler or something?
Don, yeah.
Fendler. Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
It's that idea. Like it's the music of the Eagles.
Glenn Fry, you're saying?
No, not Glenn Fry.
Oh, you know what you're saying. Whatever.
But that's what it is. You're not getting the Eagles. You're getting Joe guitarist with the music of the Eagles.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
What's your fantasy booking right now? If you're like, what I need right now from WWE to keep me in tune, and I'm watching every single day. What are you writing to take you right to next year's Mania? Go.
Vince McMahon quits.
Hey.
No, it sounds mean.
But sure.
I would go further and say Vince McMahon dies. That would be that's ultimately what's going to happen. That's going to be the big story. That's when the WWE, you'll see it'll go one way or the other, because everything at this point, aside from the financial side, which still I think Nick Khan and the board of directors are really, they're manipulating a lot of that now. Vince McMahon, everything lives and dies by Vince McMahon and his brain.
So it's going to be like Harold Ballard leaving the Leafs.
Yeah. Pretty much, or George Steinbrenner dying. Like,
no more smoking in the dressing room.
Yeah. And it's going to be bittersweet. It'll be bittersweet, and people will remember Vince for what he did for the business, and they will forget what
and how many murders he covered
the business.
There's so many, but there's so many smart people over there that I'm not worried about them in the big picture. I'm just right now I'm a little bit like I'm disconnected from it. It's funny. I'll be reconnected the second Adam steps back in, because I'm like, cool, I'll watch that. I'll watch whatever he's doing.
Dude, I'm hoping like if things open up again and, good Lord willing, the creek don't rise, we can get back down south again. I'd love to be in Vegas for SummerSlam. Just to be down, like just to be at a live show again. But I will say, this is probably the best time if you're a wrestling fan. If you're an old school wrestling fan, this is probably the best time to be one, because there's so many options and so many good options. Whereas for so many years, think about it, you had WWE that was running the show, and if it sucked, that's all you got. So now you've got choice and you've got options.
There's some good stuff out there. That's what I say. I can't wait for the indie shows to start going again. I love the small. See, I like small rock shows as well, right? No offense, Brent. I do like the big when I'm on side stage at a big show. I like that.
I'm all about it. They just
no. But sitting in the crowd at a huge show. Oh no, I'm not into that. I'm too old for that. So I love these small indie wrestling shows, man. Yeah. And I can't wait. And they're cheesy. I know people be yelling, "Oh, it's really bad wrestling." I don't care. I enjoy those, man. I can't wait to go back, beer in hand. Woo! I'm really excited.
The reason you love it is because the people that are putting it on love it just as much as you do,
right?
And that's and that's the same with shows like smaller rock shows. They're all there. Oh God! See, Vince McMahon is now messing.
Every single time Chris says something about Vince McMahon, he goes into it. Every single time.
Let's get Chris Machete.
I've watched You see those Dark Side of the Rings, man, and he's covered up a lot of stuff that Vince McMahon has.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, speaking of the Dark Side of the Rings, I just finished the Dynamite Kid one and the Grizzly Smith.
Oh, I haven't seen Grizzly Smith. You know what I really like, Mike, was the one where they went to Korea or somewhere to wrestle.
Oh, Collision in Korea. Yeah, that was.
Whoa, that was good, man.
Yeah, kudos to the guys that are doing this show because it's
great show.
Really well.
They get a lot of rope too. They got a lot of rope.
And I was trying to explain to a friend of mine who saw the A&E biographies, and I'm sort of explaining the Dark Side of the Ring stuff. And you can tell there's a distinct difference when you don't have the bias of the one company sort of like, oh, you can't say that. Oh, let's not talk about that. Like, oh, we can't do that. That's what I love about the Dark Side of the Ring stuff is that they really, like you said, they've got a lot of rope. And, you talk about independent wrestlers. There's a lot of guys and girls that I know that are indie wrestlers that are being featured in those shows as the body doubles. Shout out to my buddy Ben Ortmans, Big Ben Ortmans, who's the co-owner of Crossbody Pro Wrestling, which I did a bunch of stuff for before COVID. He plays Nick Gage in the Nick Gage episode, which is
I watched that one. That was a good one too.
Wow, man. Crazy, and it's cool because I'm watching that. I'm like, damn, that's Ben. And
that's awesome, dude.
So yeah, those guys, they're using independent wrestlers as their stand-ins with their little blurred sort of reenactments. So kudos.
Hopefully we'll get something back on track here. I mean, to your point, Mike, lots to watch, which is awesome.
More wrestling content now than ever before. And
very interesting. If you get a chance, listen to the Corgan interview with Jericho. They really touched on.
Good one. I listened to that
just a couple of days ago. They did it, and it was really, they had another kind of vision as to where he wants to take it.
I love what he's done with NWA. Like that is the perfect blend of old school 605 TBS on a Saturday night in the studio audience. Like that's the perfect blend. And again, using people that you may not even have heard of or know of. Mixed in with some people that you haven't heard from in a while. Trevor Murdoch. Hello. When's the last time you remember Trevor Murdoch? So yeah, it's a great time if you're a fan of wrestling. If you're a fan of the WWE or WWF, it is not a good time. It's these were the dark times.
That's too bad. Well, you can always, as you can be like me, and you can just, you can just watch a lot of Shotgun Saturday night or there's Saturday's main event. Man, I love that stuff. See, I'm lucky enough to be able to have that on in the background while I work. And man, I find the wrestling, I just binge watch wrestling. And next thing I know, my page is done and the day's over. And it's just like, woo! It's, you know what I mean? It's just such a great thing to have on in the background. I love it.
It's funny. I never paid attention so much to, like, when I look back on, I remember Billy Jack Haynes never won anything. And I was like, why wouldn't he? Was so close. He had the full Nelson and he was going to win. And like, you look back on some of those old things and it's like, none of those guys had a chance to break through, really. Like, you know what I mean?
Then
like,
you hear about what they were like behind the scenes too. And understand why some of them didn't break through.
And
right?
so not to go back to Dark Side of the Ring, but really like the Dynamite Kid one. Wow.
Oh, he was such a dick, huh?
Like I loved the British Bulldog.
I did too.
That was my team. And you see this now and it's Lance Storm is interviewed and he says exactly the same way I feel. I can appreciate his body of work, but that's about it. Because everything else, knowing what he was like as a human being.
Yeah. Drugging people, like slipping things in their drinks, thinking it's hilarious and
just some real dark stuff. It's tough to separate the art from the artist. Kind of like Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit in the ring was amazing, but man,
what happened there? That's a whole episode there, man.
It's hard to separate the man from the wrestler that you kind of
mental
watch.
Health's a bitch, my friends. Mental health is
gosh,
a bitch.
CTE, baby, CTE.
We're running late, gents. All right, time to roll. Michael.
Good stuff, boys. Good stuff.
Pleasure as always.
Yes, as we get to move on and ask you all the questions as per normal, what new programs are you on this week and new stations? I heard you again on something this week. I think I heard you on a different channel this week.
Have you heard my BC recycling stuff yet out there?
No, not yet.
Well, at some point you probably will. But I'm working last week, this week, tomorrow. got some stuff. I'll be able to announce it in a couple of weeks. I've been working on a project, which is kind of cool, new and exciting, and yet another opportunity for people to hear my dulcet tones on TV, radio, and all places in between. So
potentially soon voicing a character in this little series as well.
Dude, man,
we're very excited about to hear that.
You know what, Chris? I got to say that the cover, when I look at it, it's I don't know how to explain this. The
Do you want me to explain it? Because he asked me for advice. No? Okay.
When I was, it immediately brought me back to my teenage years.
Nice.
Because I used to have a skateboard when I was a skater back in like the younger days when my knees still held up. I had this, and it's the one skateboard that I wish I never got rid of. And I've actually tried to find it online and buy it in my older, when you get older and you have money, you can all of a sudden buy some of these things that you couldn't get. There was a skateboard I had. It was a Fred Alva. And it was the Punk. It was a back then, most of the skateboards were like the 10 by 32 length, but then they came out with these sort of mini boards, which were just slightly under 30 inches, just slightly under 10 inches wide. And it was a Fred Smith, not Fred Alva, Fred Smith Punk skateboard. And that graphic totally took me back to that. I'm like, oh man! Now,
nice, classic look, man. That's what I'm going for.
I love it,
Glad
man.
You got that.
And dude, I'm so psyched, man. Like again, great work on that comic, and
thanks, buddy.
And your artistry. I bow because I can't find my way out of a paper bag. So, and thanks to your assistant, the better half of
Lonnie. Yeah, she does all the backgrounds and on there and the logo and everything.
Yeah. So, kudos, Lonnie. I'm not forgetting about you as well. So
awesome,
guys. Pleasure as always. It's great to nerd out, and I'm sure Dean tuned in and was like, "These fucking nerds again." But, always
we're the only thing keeping this fucking network going, so he better like it.
Damn. All right, folks, have a great week, and we'll talk again.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah,
we'll be back with Bucketheads next week with you. So
peace out, boys.
See you, man. Wicked. There we go.
There it is.
So I'm almost sold out of the comic book, but if you do want the comic book, you go to Etsy.com and you search under Machete Comics, and it's one word. If you put Machete Comics as two words, you won't find it. It's Machete Comics, one word. We have. Because we have a bell that goes off on my phone every time we sell an issue.
Ooh.
There was 8 on Etsy, and my bell just went off, so there's 7 left on Etsy.
They're just flying.
Yeah, and I also got some messages here about some more personal messages that people that want to buy them as well. So so the comic's going very, very well. So we're going to do issue 2 will be out in July. Issue 3 will be out in August. Issue 4 will be out in September, and then I'm going to go back and do second printings of them. And then we're going to work towards the cartoon, the animated short, for the new year.
Wicked.
Yeah. So Skeletron, all right up to the new year, man.
Funny, we didn't talk about it lately, but and I think you touched on it last week, just a touch about you're in comic mode and all the rest of it. We don't need to spend a ton of time on it, but have you actually picked up a guitar and written anything lately?
Yeah, I got a couple songs I'd like to record.
Yeah, so you're still writing lots of stuff like in the background.
I have to play in a band. I don't want to tour anymore, but I would love to have a band to write music with and just play here in Kingston, because the venues in Kingston are amazing. Like you could play a different venue every weekend of the month, right? But yeah, no, my recording gears, my interface though is not working. Something happened to it in the move. So, and then my patience.
Which is great.
I teach guitar still, right? I have 15 students. I've capped it at that. I've got a bunch of kids waiting to get in, and I apologize. I had to take the sign down out front because I can't. I used to teach 15 students a day, and now I can barely fit 15 in a week because I am an official comic book artist now.
Not a bad problem to have, man.
No, dude, I've got jobs lined up. I'm going to be really busy for a while, so I'm pretty happy.
Couple things to thank. We got a couple things to do. We're going to run this little graphic from our friends at Blue Microphones. Thank you to them. So check this out. Huge thanks to them for sponsoring this podcast. That's right. What you see right there, there's a trusty little boxes right there. You see the Yeti X, you see the Mix-Fi headphones. That's what we're wearing. That's what we're talking through. We're doing all the things that we can to try to make it sound good for you people that keep tuning in. We thank you so much for that, which is really, really awesome. A huge thanks to our friends over at the Dean Blundell Network, as always, for letting us invade their space on Tuesday nights. Check out deanblundell.com. Tons of podcasts over there. Great guys. Dean on every single day right now. Must listen to and watch podcast every day at noon. He's got tons of guys on there that are really, really funny, and it's great. So big thanks to them over there for having us. Next week is going to be a great show. As we mentioned, we've got the guys who have created this series, Bucketheads, which is really, really cool. Bunch of indie nerds like us that happen.
Beautiful. Look at that. Amazing graphics.
Oh man, they really put together something cool, and it's taken over the nets. So check that out. We got the creators and of that coming on next week. So it should be an amazing chat. 2 weeks in a row of Star Wars. I mean, how cool is that?
It's great.
So very cool. Can we try at some point to have a Superman and Lois conversation? I don't think you've watched the series yet, but can you please watch it? There's so much cool shit going on in there. I think you'd love it. Where they're taking it to character development. It's deadly. It's really, really cool.
What's it on?
It's on the CW.
Okay.
CTV. So if you've got like one of those cable networks, and you can go on the video on demand.
We don't have cable.
CTV Sci-Fi is where you can find it, but it's on the CW. Man, I'd enjoy a deep dive into that. So hey, I'm just saying, if you got some time and you can add Superman and Lois to your life, I'd like to talk about that in a couple of weeks. But just because it's really great, we could wrap it up at the end.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good.
As the summer rolls and I start going on tour again too, these shows will be a little bit more sporadic on how we're going to get our times in and all the rest of it, but more details to come on that. So
definitely.
Yeah. That is Chris Machete. This has been the Kids on the Escalator podcast for Tuesday night. I am Brenton On Tour. Find me where you find your things. I'll be over there. Good times.
Rad dudes.
Thanks, everybody. All right.